Chunk is a chubby orange cat with soft fluffy fur, big green expressive eyes, tiny ears, and a small pink nose. Chunk is lying lazily on the floor. He stretches with a big yawn. Chunk rolls onto his back. He notices something on the wall. A tiny wooden door appears near the baseboard. Chunk squints in confusion. He crawls closer to inspect it. Chunk pokes the tiny door with one paw. The door doesn't move. Chunk tilts his head. He sniffs the tiny door. He taps it again. The door shakes slightly. Chunk jumps backward in surprise. He hides behind a chair leg. He peeks out nervously. The tiny door glows faintly. Chunk's eyes widen. A soft humming sound comes from the door. Chunk slowly approaches again. He places both paws on the tiny door. The glow becomes brighter. Chunk's fur bristles from static. He meows quietly in confusion. The tiny door suddenly unlocks. Chunk freezes in shock. The door creaks open a little. Chunk leans in to look inside. A bright blue light shines out. Chunk shields his eyes with a paw. A warm breeze blows from inside the tiny door. Chunk's whiskers twitch wildly. He leans even closer. A tiny leaf floats out of the door. Chunk follows the leaf with his eyes. He bats the leaf playfully. The leaf sparkles in meter. Chunk stares in awe. He sits down in front of the tiny door. He meows softly at the glowing doorway. The door opens wider by itself. Chunk gasps. A swirl of tiny glowing particles fly out. They circle around Chunk's head. Chunk tries to catch them. He spins clumsily. He falls onto his side. He shakes his head in embarrassment. He sits up again. Chunk stares into the tiny door. A faint chirping sound echoes from inside. Chunk leans closer, curious. The floor around the door vibrates slightly. Chunk lifts his paw nervously. The glow intensifies suddenly. Chunk steps back in fear. The swirling light pulls toward the door. Chunk's tail lifts straight up. The pull becomes stronger. Chunk tries to resist. His paws slide forward on the floor. He digs his claws into the carpet. The suction increases. Chunk begins sliding toward the tiny door. He panics and meows loudly. Chunk grabs a table leg for support. His body stretches comically. His paws slip one by one. He loses his grip completely. Chunk is pulled straight toward the glowing door. His eyes widen in pure terror. Chunk tries to turn around mid-slide. His belly scrapes loudly on the floor. The suction becomes overwhelming. Chunk is yanked into the tiny door. The blue light flashes brightly. Everything goes dark for a moment. Chunk falls through a swirling blue tunnel. He spins uncontrollably in meter. He tries to grab floating particles. He flips upside down. He flails helplessly. Chunk lets out a panicked meow. A bright circle of light appears below him. Chunk falls toward it. He bursts through the glowing circle. Chunk lands with a soft thud. He opens his eyes slowly. He realizes everything around him is tiny. Cliffhanger. Tiny shadows move toward Chunk. Chunk looks around in confusion. Tiny plants surround him. The grass looks like a forest to him. Chunk stands up slowly. He hears tiny footsteps. Small shadows move closer. A tiny ant soldier appears with a spear. Chunk freezes in shock. More ant soldiers gather behind him. They point their tiny weapons at Chunk. Chunk backs away nervously. He raises his paws in surrender. The ants shout tiny battle cries. Chunk tries to explain with a soft meow. The ants misunderstand and get even more afraid. Chunk steps back too far. He bumps into a mushroom. The mushroom top falls off. The ants think it's an attack. They charge forward bravely. Chunk panics and runs through the tiny forest. The ants chase him relentlessly. Chunk jumps over a pebble. To the ants, it looks like a giant boulder. The ant army splits into two groups. Chunk runs faster, panting. He trips over a tiny branch. He falls and rolls down a small slope. Ants surround him again. Chunk raises a leaf like a shield. The ants poke it with their spears. Chunk drops the leaf and scrambles away. He hides behind a giant flower. The ants march past. Chunk sighs in relief. Suddenly the ground shakes. The ants stop in fear. Chunk peeks from behind the flower. A giant worm bursts out of the soil. Chunk's eyes widen in horror. The ants scream in panic. The worm roars and destroys tiny structures. Chunk realizes the ants are in danger. He hesitates for a moment. Then he gathers courage. Chunk charges toward the worm. The worm slams into a tiny tower. Chunk jumps to dodge the debris. The ants watch in shock. Chunk swats the worm with his paw. The worm screeches angrily. The worm lunges at Chunk. Chunk rolls out of the way. He grabs a stick and swings. The stick breaks instantly. Chunk whimpers but keeps fighting. The worm coils and prepares to strike. Chunk leaps onto a small rock. He jumps onto the worm's back. The worm thrashes wildly. Chunk holds on tightly. The ants cheer with tiny voices. Chunk climbs to the worm's head. He boops the worm on the nose. The worm freezes, stunned. Chunk pushes the worm over. The worm collapses into the soil. The ants celebrate loudly. Chunk sits, exhausted. Ant soldiers surround Chunk. They salute him respectfully. Chunk smiles nervously. The ants lift a tiny flag. They declare Chunk their hero. Chunk blushes proudly. But the tiny door suddenly glows again. A soft wind pulls toward it. The ants panic as the light increases. Chunk grips the ground. The suction grows stronger. Chunk is pulled toward the door again. Chunk meows in fear as he disappears through the glowing portal. Chunk falls out of the glowing portal. He lands on soft grass again. He opens his eyes slowly. The tiny world is calm now. Chunk sits up, confused. Tiny ant soldiers run toward him. They look relieved to see him. Chunk tilts his head innocently. The ant captain bows deeply. Chunk blushes in embarrassment. Tiny ants present him with a tiny leaf medal. Chunk leans in to sniff it. The ants cheer loudly in tiny voices. Chunk smiles proudly. The ground shakes suddenly. The worm bursts out again, even angrier. Chunk jumps in surprise. The worm charges toward the ant village. Ants scream and scatter. Chunk stands tall, determined. He steps in front of the worm. The worm roars at him. Chunk roars back, although it sounds cute. The worm hesitates. Chunk puffs up his fur to look bigger. The worm lunges forward. Chunk leaps to the side. He pushes a giant berry toward the worm. The worm slips on the berry juice. Chunk kicks a tiny log with his back paws. The log rolls down a hill. It hits the worm's body. The worm screeches loudly. Chunk jumps onto a mushroom for height. He leaps onto the worm's head again. The worm thrashes violently. Chunk holds on with all his strength. He boops the worm's nose again. The worm freezes a second time. Chunk boops it harder. The worm collapses, defeated. Ants cheer louder than ever. They surround Chunk in celebration. Tiny banners wave in the air. Ant children climb on Chunk's back happily. Chunk sits proudly like a hero. The ant queen approaches. She bows to Chunk. Chunk bows awkwardly back. The ants thank him with tiny gifts. They give him a glowing mini crystal. Chunk gently picks it up. A warm light shines from the crystal. The tiny door behind him begins glowing. Chunk looks surprised. The ants become sad, knowing he must leave. Chunk meows softly in farewell. The ants salute their giant hero. Chunk steps toward the glowing door. The suction pulls him gently. He waves a paw at the ants. They wave their tiny spears back. Chunk is pulled into the portal. A flash of blue light surrounds him. Chunk falls back into his real-world living room. He lands on the carpet with a soft thump. He sits up dizzy. He looks at his paw. The tiny glowing crystal is still there. Chunk smiles proudly. He places the tiny crystal next to his bed. The tiny door behind him flickers. Then it slowly fades away. Chunk stares at the spot where it vanished. He lies down, exhausted. He curls up to sleep. A single tiny ant flag is stuck to his fur. Chunk purrs softly, proud of his adventure.